I'd like to call to order the January 13th, 2026 meeting at 2 o'clock, the Nelson County Board of Supervisors. Let us stand for a moment of silence, please. Dr. Ligon, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we get to the first item in the agenda, the reorganization of the board, I'd like to introduce a new employee to the county. Actually, I'll bring Allison McGarry to introduce.
Grace, Ms. Moyer.
Grace.
Ms. Moyer can introduce.
Oh, Grace is. I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry.
Great, Grace.
Good afternoon. We are very excited to introduce Ms. Grace Deschamps. She is Nelson County's new Department of Social Services Director, and she started in her role on January 1st. Ms. Deschamps has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in business administration and management executive leadership. Her work experience includes 9 years as a Virginia State Trooper, 1 year as a security specialist with Target, 6 years in full-time family services as a specialist and then supervisor with Nelson DSS, and 4 years in a part-time case consultant capacity. And most recently, 6 years full-time with the Central Shenandoah Valley Office on Youth as a division supervisor. Her knowledge, skills, and abilities will be a wonderful complement to the existing leadership of the agency, and we're all excited for the continued positive growth that is to come under her direction. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Grace Deschamps as our new DSS Director.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Allison. Sorry. I'm going to turn the gavel over to our County Administrator, Ms. McGarry, and she will lead us through the reorganization of the board.
We can just do it figuratively.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to our new supervisor, Mr. Cameron Linehan.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here and welcome. Okay, so this is our first meeting in the new calendar year in which we elect a new chair and vice chair as part of the organizational meeting. So with that, we will take nominations from the floor for chair for calendar year 2026.
Mr. Gary, I'd nominate that for the chair position, we place Jessica Ligon.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we will close nominations for chair. And I would ask, do you want to vote on chair and vice chair at the same time?
Might as well.
Okay, we'll now take nominations from the floor for vice chair for 2026.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Jesse Rutherford. A second.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we will close the floor for nominations and now open the floor for a vote for Jessica Ligon for chair and Jesse Rutherford for vice chair.
Do you need another motion from us for that, or do we just vote?
I don't know.
Go
Maybe.
ahead and make another motion.
Okay,
And then
I move
just
that
do a
we
vote.
approve the chair and vice chair as presented. Dr. Ligon as chair and Jesse Rutherford as vice chair.
A second.
Okay, call for the vote, please. Dr. Ligon,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Linehan,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Okay, very Very good. Congratulations to you both. Moving on to the second part of our organizational meeting, I'll have you turn to Resolution 2026-01. This is our usual resolution, and it's authorized by 15.2, 1416 of the Code of Virginia, and Chapter 2, Article 2 of the Code of the County of Nelson. As I said, this is the annual organizational meeting, and this resolution sets out the matters to be determined by the Board of Supervisors in addition to the appointment of the chairman and vice chairman, which includes establishment of a schedule of regular and as applicable special meetings, the establishment of the rules of order, the establishment of a meeting agenda, and the establishment of board appointments, including a clerk, a deputy clerk to the Board of Supervisors, zoning administrator, and hazardous materials coordinator. This resolution lays out that regular meetings of the Board of Supervisors shall be conducted during the calendar year 2026 in this room, the General District Courtroom located in the Nelson County Courthouse in Livingston, Virginia, on the second Tuesday of each month, beginning at 2 p.m. and reconvening thereafter at 7 p.m. Should the regular meetings fall on any legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on the next following regular business day without action of any kind by the board unless otherwise canceled. Should the chairman or vice chairman, if the chairman is unable to act, find and declare that weather or other conditions are such that it is hazardous for members to attend regular meetings, the meetings will be continued on the following Tuesday. Such findings shall be communicated to the members' staff and press as promptly as possible, and all hearings and other matters previously advertised shall be conducted at the continued meetings and no further advertisement is required. Special meetings of the Board of Supervisors may be convened from time to time as determined by the Board of Supervisors in accordance with the applicable provisions of the Code of Virginia and Code of Nelson County, Virginia. In accordance with the Code of the County of Nelson, Robert's Rules of Order shall be observed as the rules for conducting the business of the Board of Supervisors, and the agenda for all meetings of the Board of Supervisors shall be established by the clerk of the board in consultation with the chairman. On page 2 of this resolution, you have the current list of Board of Supervisors appointments for calendar year 2026. And now would be the time for the board to make any changes to those designations.
Sure. Just had some one-on-one discussions about some of these particular roles. I do not have to sit on jail authority board any further. Mr. Lanahan has indicated that he'd be willing to fill that spot. If nobody has any protests with that, I was just gonna say Mr. Lanahan can have the jail board position. And then the second piece, I think Dr. Ligon, you had indicated that the Piedmont Council, I was gonna suggest you guys always should go on that one, don't you think?
It's very educational on kind of the struggles of the counties around us and how there's outside sources to help with workforce, and it is quite educational, so strongly recommend that.
All right, Cameron, you wanna be on both those?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. And then I guess as we follow up, I do believe that Dr. Ligon should see out the remainder of the zoning on the planning commission representation. As I would suggest that and encourage that if once that is completed, so that the next person can slide in to complete the map redraw. If you're still open to that, Dr. Ligon.
I am.
Perfect.
Yep.
So I guess the only edits we currently have is if you would like a motion for me for this particular slate, or would you like the annual meeting and the slate?
I think you should just adopt a resolution, including both.
Okay.
And at this moment, I will take my seat and turn the meeting over to Dr. Ligon.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
I would like to move that we approve resolution R 2026-01 with a amendment on the appointments to reflect Cameron Lanahan on the Piedmont Council, as well as Cameron Lanahan on the Regional Jail Authority Board.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
We do need to make our government representative appointment
Oh.
for the
Criminal Justice
criminal
Board.
justice board.
There was an email that indicated that Sheriff Embry would be willing to fill that spot. If the board is amicable, I'd like to add my motion to reflect Mr. Embry on the Criminal Justice Board.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I mean, we can vote by acclamation if we want.
That's good to you.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those opposed? Thank you. All right, we're moving on to public comments. We had a couple people sign up. Just a brief list of the rules. Please state your name and your address clearly when you come up. Your time starts at that moment. You have 3 minutes. I was about to say that. We have 3 minutes if you are representing yourself. If you are representing your group, you will have 5 minutes. There's a sign. But state the. Let me finish, please. All right. All right. When you have 30 seconds left, there's a sign. This will pop up. When you're done, stop. Please be respectful. And that's about it. Mr. Reverend Rose. Yes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend James Rose. I reside at 2225 Union Hill Drive in Windana. This afternoon, come to extend an invitation to the board and to the county administrator and to all county employees to the Dr. Martin Luther King celebration be held this Sunday at 3 o'clock at the Nelson Heritage Center. We're asking that you come and be with us in the celebration, because we know what Dr. King done for our community, for our country, and for all of us. And it's a good time for us to come together as a community in unity, reflection, and hope as we honor the legacy of Dr. King. We will have the Tom family there for singing, and we will have a guest speaker there. So please come and join in the community with us. Also, while I'm here, I would like to say that on Route 56, James River Road in Shipment, in the vicinity of Helena Lane, there is a crossing, there's a passing lane in that vicinity going west toward Livingston. In that vicinity, there's 6 houses in that vicinity. Helena Lane is there. People come out of Helena Lane. The speed limit is 45. In order to pass, if the speed limit is 45, you have to be going more than 45 to pass somebody. And last year I witnessed an accident there by an elderly lady. She since passed, not from that, but from other issues. And less than an hour down, they also have a passing lane. So I'm asking, we want to get it on record. They were notifying the Board of Supervisors and VDOT of this issue. I spoke to Mr. Brown. He said they're going to look into it, but we wanted something to done before someone really get hurt in that area, and that's why we want it on record. So we're asking that you look into it, and like I said, there's another crossing down less than a mile, and if you ever been there, you see that. So I don't know why we should have that. Thank you.
Did you say 3 o'clock Sunday? Did you say 3 o'clock Sunday?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Bain?
Stephen Bain, 620 Farnham Climb, Nellies Ford, Board of Supervisors. We know that the budget cycle is crucial for Nelson County and its citizens, that this budget cycle is crucial. This is to provide feedback and suggestions regarding the county's annual budget process for the FY 27 budget in particular. Nelson County can live within its means, but it is incumbent upon the Board of Supervisors to ensure that you have the backs of your constituents. County residents are concerned over keeping housing costs affordable. Despite the county's communication regarding the current reassessment, residents are not expecting an increase in their real estate tax payment. This is the largest housing cost that you can keep from increasing. We must equalize the real estate tax rate 100% in accordance with Virginia State Code, which from staff's analysis means reducing the current tax rate from 65 cents to approximately 50 cents. Residents are expecting this from you. Your diligence and discipline with the expenditure budget is critically important. I suggest that staff should provide you with detailed justification from each department and division for each line item of their requested expenditure budget, both operating and capital expenditures. It is important that you and your constituents know fully the value county residents are receiving for each expenditure. I expect that county residents are receiving from, I expect that county department and division leaders want residents to know the value that residents are receiving from the services they are providing. I expect the department and division leaders want residents to know that they are doing their part to be disciplined, eliminate expenditures that are not truly required, and keep Nelson County from being the spendiest county in the region. We know that the cost of living allowance measured by the CPI remains well below 3%. Every line item with year-over-year growth over the CPI should be challenged by the department and division in collaboration with county staff before it even gets to the Board of Supervisors. For any requested new or recurring expenditures over CPI, the department or division should challenge itself to first replace an existing expenditure that is less important and can be eliminated. Nelson County should always look to residents and constituents for their approval of the value they receive from tax revenues they provide. Thank you.
Mr. Waterfield.
Good day, beautiful day. I'm the most hated man in this county, Elwood Waterfield. Criminal organization, that's what Nelson County is. Mr. Embry back there getting awards for protecting senior citizens' civil rights. And the great Mr. Rutherford there, prosecuting evil people like myself that get to face the death penalty for buying a quart of potato salad in Food Line. Let me quote you, Mr. Reed. A lot of good things are happening in this county. We have a great team on the board and a great staff, Reed said. This was April the 24th of 2025 in the fiction Nelson County Times. Don't believe nothing you read in here about you did. April the 3rd, 21 days before that, at the Rockfish Valley Community Center at the town hall meeting, Mr. Embry hung his head in shame and disgrace for laughing at a senior citizen that got a urine and feces thrown on him for 2.5 hours in protective custody at Albemarle County Regional Jail, because I had the guts to stand up against the corruption in this county. Mr. Rutherford, you and Mr. Phillips that night were so stoned out of your gourds, you didn't know what was going on. And Mr. Embry, I'm going right now when I leave this, and let me see, can I read this within the 3-minute period, because every word on it's a lie. On the 22nd day of January 2024 came Thomas E. Bywer, special prosecutor for Nelson County, Elwood Waterfield III, the defendant, and M. Paul Valois, Esquire, counsel for the defendant. All that's a lie. the attorney of the Commonwealth, for good cause shown hereby moves to no process be entered in this matter. This is after 4 years of telling me every step I can take, how I can communicate. I gotta write letters to the sheriff's department. I cannot call the sheriff's department. Dispatcher 836 and several others hang up, tell me I'm subject to be arrested because of God. Philip Payne, that was in here before this meeting started, his letter, 6 years, he dictates everywhere I can go, how I can communicate. I can't call Nelson County Sheriff's Department. I have to write Philip Payne a letter and hope I'm not dead by the time he responds to it. Y'all have a good day. I'm going right now to the clerk's office. I want her arrested. 18.2472, that's the code. Lying of court documents and destroying court documents.
Looks like I got a lot to look forward to.
We've completed the list of people that have signed up. Is there anyone else? Fine. Mr. Rutherford.
Janie Rutherford, I'm coming in my official capacity. I apologize. We were in recovery court graduation, and that's why I'm up here. So I'm in my official capacity as the Commonwealth's attorney. And I want to just thank the board members for recovery court. Today, we had our 5th graduate since 2023. That is 5 lives totally changed. And I just want to come and thank the board. First, it started with myself and former Chairman Reed, now to Supervisor Reed, working together. So thank you for really jumping with us and making this happen. There has been 5 lives changed. When I say that, there have been 3 individuals who were facing a mandatory 1 year in jail. And they were able to make themselves clean their whole lives after 14 months. Each of our graduates went from being unemployed to employed. Each of our graduates went from having substance abuse issues to having no substance abuse issues and remaining clean. And they had to do that at a minimum of 14 months. They had to be sober, they had to be employed, they had to have stable housing. And so for them to be graduates, they had to accomplish many wonderful things. And we are now up to 5. We have many other people in recovery court, and I hope to continue it, but I just want to come along and update the rest of the board and let the board know the success we all are having, because this is not just the Office of the Commonwealth's Attorney, this isn't recovery court, this is Nelson County's success. So thank you to the board members and thank you for the whole team. I know it's beyond the board. Ms. McGarry works a lot with us on the advisory committee. So again, thank you from the Office of the Commonwealth's Attorney for your support.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
It's Michael C. Snell, SNDLL. I'm from Rockford Valley. I'm here on behalf of Rockford Valley. I'm gonna ask you one thing. You don't know what the contractor law is. If you don't, it's where you build a building, you have 2 years after it's been built to the contractor's supposed to come back and fix it at his cost. All right, that's all that. Well, I made fun about that. I didn't know nothing about it 30 years ago from Tommy. So that's why I'm coming out. All right, and next thing, do you know the Virginia laws? And then building the roundabout, like you said, is being put in. If it's a family private cemetery on the property, that you cannot cover it up, destroy it at all. And you get, if you do, you break, it's like a hearing with the board of supervisors. I don't know, years ago, one of the first people that bought it, they asked for the supervisors if they could put in a private cemetery. And the supervisors said yes. So there's no records of it except for the, on the deed, except for the board of supervisors records that they take. That's all I need to know. I just want you to think about that, because if you don't stop it. Because y'all voted yes to get VDOT to go in. The family over there is still living. And they had told the landowner now about it. And about Virginia law, the landowner, y'all okayed it to go in, and they VDOT by the family could be sued. That's all I'm gonna say. And I see y'all good night.
Anyone else? All right, we're gonna call that an end to public comment. We're gonna move on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I was going to suggest, since Mr. Lanahan hasn't been in, wasn't at the November meeting, that we separate minutes of the meeting and from the budget amendment. And then I'd like to approve the minutes as presented.
All right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Shall we vote by acclamation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed?
I have to abstain because I wasn't
Yeah,
part of
that's
that.
fine. All right, the second thing on our consent agenda is the budget amendment.
I move that we approve resolution R 2026-03 budget amendment.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. All right, we have presentations. Mr. Brown, VDOT's first.
Good afternoon. Don't have a whole lot to report. This month, we are still been doing a lot of maintenance work. Still replacing pipes. We did get a good break from the winter weather and we've been able to restock most of our chemical buildings, so getting ready for the next round. We are focusing a lot on boom action, cutting back brush, which seems like it never ends, but hopefully some of that you've seen some of that in your area. Again, I really don't have a whole lot to report today. I do want to comment on, I had a comment with Mr. Linehan after the meeting last week, and I want to clarify some statements that I made about counseling smart scale projects. He and I had a discussion about the roundabout project at Tanbark and 151. And he was asking me some questions. And the main thing was, and I want to clarify that, any locality that submits a smart scale application, they can, as the project progresses, they can pass a resolution and ask them that the project be canceled. That does not automatically cancel a project. Only the Commonwealth Transportation Board can cancel a project that is fully funded. And in this case, this project is fully funded in the current 6-year plan. Just want to clarify that because I didn't want any misunderstanding. And I hope if the board was to ever decide to take that route on any project, I would hope before you make that decision that you would invite VDOT to the table and we sit down and discuss it. Because smart scale applications are serious. That is the way that localities get new projects and get road improvements, safety improvements. And the project at Tanbark and 151 is strictly a safety project. There's no other reason for doing it. It's not a capacity issue out there. It's a safety project. So I hope that, I don't know where that's coming from, but we definitely need to have a talk with y'all while consider doing that. And I've got a lot of good information about roundabouts. They are a great tool. And given the previous board's concerns from their constituents on the issues on 151, such as speed, such as high volume of trucks, this project would fit the bill to address a lot of those issues. This project would have a traffic calming effect on that area. And then given the roundabout that is planned for, which the gentleman spoke about, and 151 and Route 6 Road. It would give a great calming effect to that corridor, and it might even deter truck usage, which that was an issue on a lot of folks' minds. So just want to make that clarification. Be glad to answer any questions on that or take any other concerns. But Mr. Lennon, I want to clarify that because I don't think I made that clear.
Yes.
We had a discussion.
You think we go ahead and get a VDOT meeting put together? There's a lot of constituents of mine that's on Tambark that's brought that concern up about the roundabout.
If this is what the board desires, we can do that. But it's y'all's decision.
Can you clarify, when we've gotten this far into a project, what's the cost of canceling?
Well, right now, this project is just getting started. I did check on some balances. Right now, there's $53,000 have been, over $53,000 have been charged that, spent on that project. And from what I understand, there's another 75,000 that hasn't been invoiced yet. So if you add those two together, that would be around $128,000 that the county could be required to reimburse VDOT for if this project was canceled.
So this is the second smart scale project that we've had questions on in the last few months. Say we were to cancel this project, how does that affect future projects, or does that change where we stand with VDOT?
Oh, no. It's project specific. It doesn't look good, but it certainly doesn't disqualify, future small scale submissions or any other revenue sharing, tap projects, anything like that. Doesn't, no.
Right. I think I would suggest that we provide you with all the presentations we got on the safety studies and things like that before the meeting occurs, and maybe another opportunity for questions. Does that
I
make
went
sense?
back and looked at some of the minutes that was taken. One of the last meeting that Tommy was at, it stated in there that they were trying to shove this through, and that was the last meeting that he was at, and then Tommy didn't have a final vote on this. So the North District didn't have a direct vote on this. The rest of the board, of course, pushed it through. Is there a way to possibly redraw that as far as a rediagram of it? I mean, would that be a consideration?
Well, we are it is specifically a roundabout. That is what the application was submitted on. A little history here, just so you know. Back in 2013, when the 151 corridor, I think it's a 2013 corridor study, 151 was completed. It wasn't calling for a roundabout at that location. It was calling for a alignment change in 151, and the footprint of that, and that was back before roundabouts really became fully valued in the transportation in this area in the state. That footprint was going to shift 151 to the west, and then due to the cut and fills, the footprint was going to be enormous, to where Afton Service Station would be a total take on right of way, as well as the properties on the adjacent corner on the south side of that intersection. This footprint of this roundabout is going to be considerably less. And the biggest issue, and this is important that you understand this, the biggest issue with this intersection is line of sight and limited sight distance. And that's why that approach was taken. It would obtain the additional sight distance that hopefully would make this intersection safer. And what
Depends on which way you come out of Tambark.
What a roundabout will do, it will totally eliminate the sight distance issue. It will not be an issue here because all traffic will go through a roundabout at a reduced speed. and I don't know if the design speed will be 25 or 35, but it certainly will not be any greater than 35 miles per hour, which is gonna slow every vehicle down that goes through that roundabout. And it's gonna create a line, and it's gonna have a line of sight to where you're not gonna have to worry about people having crashes because people could not see oncoming vehicles. And just, I like to bring out the fact that the crash rate that is one of the highest intersection crash rates we have in Nelson County. Between 2020 and 2024, there have been 11 crashes at that location. I did not look up the numbers for this past year. But the thing about it, and this is statistically proven, crash rates generally go down 82% when you take a multi-legged intersection, like a four-legged intersection like it's up there now, and you put a roundabout in there. Crashes go down 82% statistically. It's hard to argue with why you would not want a roundabout that makes that much a safer intersection. So it's up to the board. And obviously this is something that's dear to you.
Well, not only just to me, but I was elected to this seat for that reason.
Well, I mean, that's fine.
Right.
But I know that there's been a great outcry from other constituents about speed. 151 has an operating speed of 60 miles per hour. That's why we have not been able to lower that speed limit out there to 45, as we have been asked to do on numerous occasions. The truck traffic. We were asked to do a truck restriction. We could not do that. If this would deter trucks, then it could possibly do that. So, I mean, the board has to decide this. I just want to give you an objective report on the current, how it is currently. So, but do not cancel this project until we meet and have a chance to talk it over, if that's what you all want to do, or if you want to, however you want to handle it. But canceling smart scale projects that have been supported by resolution from Board of Supervisors and the planning commissions, that's a big deal. So, try to answer any other questions.
Just to say, Mr. Brown, I appreciate you giving us this information now. And, I, for one, certainly still stand by the decision that the board made previously for the reasons that you stated. And I'm, and I assume I would continue to do so. And I don't really think, having a full VDOT presentation on the information you've just presented to us, basically, and reiterating that would be a really good use of our time or your time. I certainly respect you doing what you feel you need to do, but I don't feel a need to revisit it myself.
I've only been on the board for 2 years, but the one thing we've stood united on is trying to make our roadways safer. How I remember the presentation, though the debate was long before I joined the board, there is a real issue, and this was a really great way to address it. I, on a personal level, did not love roundabouts until the one at 250 and 151, and not many people could convince me that was a bad idea. We've seen it work. I truly do believe that it does reduce issues by 80% just from what I've seen them personally. So I also am still in support, unless I saw a huge movement in the negative, but I don't foresee that.
What I was gonna suggest, Cameron, is you have a meeting with Robert over on 151. Y'all go meet, because you mean 151 has a much bigger situation, of course, that you're already dealing with, so maybe there's some complementary ideas and some push from other smart skills, even if this one isn't one that you can adjust. You're able to do that, right? You can meet with Cameron over on 151.
Absolutely.
So why don't y'all schedule that? Send him an email. I think that'd be good for both y'all and spend a good amount of time on 151 together. Wash some trucks. You hang out at Route 6 like I do and count trucks. But luckily sheriff's putting a hamper on that.
You have anything for Mr. Bill?
Yeah, I want to say, I'm assuming you're the one who marked the posts on Peavine Lane. Don't ask me what the road number is. Grew up on it my whole life, still don't know.
Mark the pipes.
Yeah, so it looks like y'all are addressing that.
Yeah, that was what you brought
Yeah,
up last.
yep,
last
so
month.
I want
Yeah.
to say thank you. And then Whippoorwill has a pothole, which is a neighboring road to Peavine that's been sitting there near the entrance of Whippoorwill. It's right off of Peavine. And then I had a constituent who had brought up a road pipe, and it drawn a blank on where she lives. I'll send an email out on that one as soon as you leave, I'll remember who it is. So I'll try to email you on that one. Oh, Crossroads Front Street also. Have you gotten anywhere on that one?
Hopefully that is gonna happen. You know, the reason we have not done anything on that is because we have to construct some curb cut ramps.
Sure.
Our contractor, we are thinking he's gonna be here in the next month.
Okay.
It's just been hard to get them here.
Sure.
We've got them back in Nelson County. They're working on that slope repair up on 29 right now, and you have them all county line, we're in the slope.
Oh,
repair,
yeah,
and they're working up there. It's my understanding that they're coming here to Livingston next to construct the ADA curb cut ramps so that we can paint the crosswalks that
great.
have already been approved by
Sure.
our traffic engineers. I just gotta get the construction done.
And then anything on our VTAP grant, just status of the sidewalk improvements? I know we got some preliminary engineering done.
Yes, I am not that familiar with that. I'll
Candy,
assume
do you
it
know?
is progression through PE and
Okay.
design. I'm not intimately familiar with.
Got
where
it.
that's at.
All right, it's a whole different, okay. Yeah.
I believe they're still in the PE phase. They just got the Federal Highway Administration approval, so now they're gonna be moving a little bit faster.
Okay.
And, you'll see in my
Your report.
budget presentation, report that we haven't been billed yet for any of that work, and that's why. So
Okay.
the timeline has slipped just a little bit.
Okay.
But it's gonna start.
Great.
going.
Speaking of Livingston and ADA ramps, could you talk to your people in the Bradshaw building, ask them to stop blocking the ADA ramp when they go to work?
Yeah.
That'd be
Gotcha.
nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll pass the message.
Thank you.
You have anything for Vito? All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
In terms of next steps for the idea of a crosswalk on 151 at 8 Isle Road, or in that vicinity there, because we talked about it at the last meeting. I'm wondering if it might be a good idea. You had asked what might be the best location for it, and I really, didn't say I had the information to do it. I'm wondering if we might want to get together with someone from Valley Green, maybe Wintergreen, maybe Mr. Washburn, and they would probably have a much better idea about what might be the best location for that than I do.
Well, there is a section of sidewalk out there, but it's really not associated with the
Yeah.
driveway.
It's been there, yeah. I saw that.
You
It's
see that?
covered under grass.
It's not
6
associated.
inches.
We're looking at it, haven't come to any real conclusions on how to do it, but there has to be an entrance and an exit to the crosswalk, and I have sent that to our traffic folks to look at. They just haven't gotten anything back from them.
Okay, so I'll wait to hear more from
But
you.
we're working on it.
Okay, thank you.
I guess it's not really in my district, but I drive the road every day, so I'll reiterate the passing zone. I drive that 3 or 4 times a day, and actually have personally seen lots of near misses at where the passing zone is on 56. And I think it actually asks for risky behavior right there. And if someone is unable to pass there, they're actually more aggressive at the next passing lane.
Right.
It's wild. So to further push that through,
Mhm.
if we could get whatever needs to be started to assess that passing zone on 56 right there. I call it Foster Town.
It's Foster too.
And see, what that 45 does, it reduces the, required tangent length that you have to have in a section of roadway to have a passing zone. And, 45 is much less than if you have 55 mile per hour speed limit, so that's why, I mean, it meets the minimum length for a passing zone. As Reverend Rose and I talked, we will take another look at it.
It's funny, have we done speed studies right there? Because I would bet the average
We
speed
did
is not.
we did a speed study. I don't know that we did a study specific to
Right.
to eliminate the
That.
passing zone.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. I have nothing else. How about yourself? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, we have a presentation on 2026 reassessment analysis. Get excited.
Chair, like it noted, this is a presentation on our preliminary 2026 real property reassessment analysis. First, I'd like to just talk a little bit about our 2026 assessors hearing results. We had 610 property owners appeal their 26 assessments, and 810 properties were reviewed. Of the 810 properties, 456 of these were owned by county residents, which is a percentage of 56.3%. These included properties that are technically Nelson County properties, but with Amherst addresses. And then out of the 810, 354 were properties owned by non-county residents, or 43.7%. This table shows the results of these hearings. It shows the property class and then the values before the hearings at 4.7 million. Values after the hearings were also 4.7 million, but a reduction of $19,416,100 or 0.41%. Next, we'll look at comparing the 2025 and 26 real property and tax levies of all values. So this table shows our 26 real property values after the assessor's hearings as compared to 2025. I'll just talk a little bit about left to right on the table. We have our 2025 values as of 11/14/25. And then we have our 26 values as of 12/31/25, again, after the assessor's hearings. We do show it by class, which includes the tax exempt properties. It's also important to note that the values shown here do not reflect reduced land use taxation program valuations or tax relief programs such as elderly and disabled tax relief. It also does include the tax exempt properties, including Commissioner of Revenue approved exemptions for veterans killed in action and or surviving spouses, or disabled veterans and surviving spouses. And the 2025 real property values reflect values from the last reassessment in 2022, plus property improvements and new construction from December 31st of 2022 through November 14th, 2025. I also want to point out that individual property values may have changed by a percentage greater than or less than the overall percentage change shown. So getting to that overall percentage change, from 25 to 26, the values changed 26.6%.
or $1,063,361,200. That equivalent tax value of the full amount there is $32,868,217. So you all feel free to stop me if you'd like as we go through this, if you have any questions as we go. Okay, next, we'll look at comparing the 2025 and 2026 taxable real property values and equivalent tax levy. This table shows the 2025 taxable real property values and that equivalent 100% tax levy. And this is the taxable real property values as of 11/14/25. And shows the deductions for the 2025 tax year for the land use discount and current elderly and disabled tax relief discount to arrive at the values used to calculate the 2025 100% equivalent tax levy for the 25 adjusted real property values. The land use taxation program values per acre are set by the Commissioner of Revenue and remain constant until those are adjusted. Again, the taxable values are total values as reduced for properties qualifying as tax exempt under state and local statutes. So here we have the 2025 taxable values as of 11/14/25. We've reduced those by the current land use discount and then the current elderly and disabled discount to arrive at the adjusted taxable values. That being $3,242,999,998 with an equivalent tax levy at 100% of $21,079,500. If you divide that by our current tax rate of 65 cents, the value of the penny of $324,300. And again, that's the 2025 tax year. Okay, next we'll look at the same table for 2026. Same things apply here. The 26 taxable values started at 4.7 million, reduced for the current land use discount and elderly and disabled discount. The adjusted taxable values are $4,265,402,098. This equivalent tax levy is $27,725,114. Again, dividing that by the current tax rate of 65 cents, you arrive at a tax value of the penny of $426,000 and $426,540. Excuse me. Okay. These two tables just kind of combine the two. The top table shows the 26 adjusted taxable values compared to the 25 adjusted taxable values. And the increase in those total adjusted values is $1,022,402,100 or a percentage change of 31.5%. The bottom table there shows their equivalent, the equivalent tax levy at the 65 cents per $100 value tax rate, which is the current rate. And you can see the difference in that between 26 and 25 is $6,645,614. Again, a 31.5% increase. The tax equivalent increase at 65 cents per $100 of value would be 15.58 cents. Also, again, want to note that individual property taxes may change by a percentage greater than or less than the overall percentage change shown here. Okay. Next, we'll look at equalizing the tax rate in 2026. Okay. So as Mr. Bain noted before in his public comments, approximately 49.5 cents would equalize the tax rate or provide an approximate equivalent amount of tax revenue as 2025. And this is a 15.58 or 15.5 cent differential. Okay, you may ask, well, what were the results of our last reassessment in 2022? The 2022 real property assessment resulted in an overall increase in values of 20.5%, an equivalent of 14 cents per $100 of value. The 21 real property tax rate was 72 cents per $100 in value. The equalizing rate to that of 2021 would have been 58 cents per $100 of value. The board adopted a rate of 65 cents per $100, which was a 7-cent decrease in rate, but a 12% effective tax increase with an equivalent increase in revenue of $2,201,260. That increase in revenue was proposed to cover debt service costs related to multiple projects that were either approved or being considered by the Board of Supervisors for implementation in fiscal years 2023 through 2026. Just some notes I put together on consideration of property tax rates. First, the property tax rates are set by calendar tax year, and the county's budget is set by fiscal year. Fiscal year budget combines 1/2 of the current tax year's anticipated revenue with 1/2 of the next tax year's estimated tax revenues. Second, when new property tax revenue, real or personal, is generated from either an increase in values or an increase in rates from one calendar year to the next, a one-time budgetary windfall results in the current fiscal year. Third, real property owners who qualify and participate in the land use taxation program will see a decrease in their real property tax obligations should the real property tax rate decrease. In turn, the tax revenue discount associated with these static values will increase. Fourth, real property tax rates apply to the property of public service corporations, which remit public service taxes to the SCC, which are then passed through to the county. Changes in the real property tax rates affect this revenue as well. Next, historically, boards of supervisors have chosen to retain some level of increase in real property values or revenue in reassessment years in order to provide for anticipated expenditures within the 4 years between real property assessments, rather than considering these annually. This is a philosophical consideration for the board with this reassessment. Changes in tax rates require public hearing, and adopted rates can be lower than those advertised for public hearing, but not higher. Virginia Code prescribes specific public hearing notice requirements in a reassessment year. That is the end of this presentation. I guess I just want to note, and I didn't include it here, that there will be Board of Equalization hearings with property owners once that Board of Equalization gets fully trained and certified and then officially appointed by the circuit court. So these numbers are after the assessor's hearings, but before those hearings. So just want to make that disclaimer there.
I want to make a note, obviously, 4 years is probably more of a common standard for rural localities like our own around the Commonwealth. I'm grateful that we are not our neighbors to the south of us that do this every 6 years. Otherwise, a lot of people are seeing effective 75 to 100% increases in their assessments, which is insane. I do think that amongst some of our neighbors, discussions have been had about utilizing maybe more of a regionally based assessment concept, because a lot of us are staggered. So if we did 2 years, maybe there could be some offset to where there are offset into sharing an assessment group through on a regional basis, potentially as DJPDC. This is conceptual.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it is good for our constituents if we probably went to either a 2-year assessment. That way we're not hit with 25% increases. Hopefully markets have stabilized, but as interest rates drop, we know that's not going to be the potential case. But I would say to the board that that is something I think we should strongly consider, is looking at the 2-year reassessment and then potentially seeing if we can partner with our neighbors and see if there's an economical way to facilitate assessments. So that's in concept.
Have you shared with us the cost of the reassessment?
I believe this one was somewhere around 410,000 was the contract.
Which is,
4,500.
there you go.
A penny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so give us the timetable on what you need action wise.
Well, we will talk about our budget calendar, which includes important dates related to tax rates. So if you wouldn't mind, we can defer till looking at that.
Okay.
And, I think that will answer some of those questions.
Okay.
And I have the next one as well, so I'm just
All right.
hanging out. All right, next we'll just go into some FY 27 preliminary considerations for the board in the budget cycle here. All right, first we'll talk about some anticipated operational expenditure changes that we are aware of. So the K-12 education and the Governor Youngkin's introduced budget. This budget has been introduced, however, we're anticipating some changes, likely from the incoming administration, and these are to be determined. But what we know now is that for the K-12 education, we had an increase in our local composite index for the biennium 2026 to 2028. Our LCI went from 0.6645 to 0.7269. Which translate to an increase in local funding of approximately $897,060. Additionally, in the new biennium, the K-12 education SOQ costs will be re-benchmarked, and the expected increase in local funding of approximately $250,000 to $300,000 will be a result of that re-benchmarking. There's also a proposed 2% salary increase effective July 2026 and 2% salary increase effective July 1st, 2027 for state-supported positions subject to the LCI. These local costs are to be determined. There is a reduction in the Virginia retirement system contribution rates for public school teachers for FY 27 and FY 28. That will provide some local cost savings, and those are also to be determined. The local composite index and SOQ cost re-benchmarking occurs every 2 years. The LCI is formula driven and is based upon the previous 2 years' data for the formula components. The LCI cap is currently 0.8000, which we are fast approaching with our current LCI being 0.7269.
And part of the reason why it's not at 0.8 is because they're behind 3 years. Is that usually how it goes on reassessment evaluation?
Yes, they use data that's, I think, 2 years old.
Yeah, so we're already there. So we just have to assume that we're at 0.8.
So before our next reassessment, we will have another increase in our LCI and re-benchmarking costs to consider.
What is the difference if it was today? I'm sure I could average out whatever the percentage change is, 6%, and so another 8%. So basically we're $2 million away from state minimum. Ish.
I can't do math that fast,
Yeah.
so I'll take your word.
Yeah,
for it.
I don't know. It's just if you just double this.
If you're adding in the SOQs on top.
Oh yeah, that's so cute. And whatever
So it's
re-benchmarking is too.
Yeah.
3 million.
Yeah, 3 mil.
Do we know where we rank in the state on LCI?
We had a
We have that. I don't know that
It's-
answer.
If I remember, we're
Ridiculous.
3 or 4th down.
from Fairfax
I
City.
mean, seriously.
Okay, moving on, some anticipated operational expenditure changes. The Albemarle Charlottesville Regional Jail operations and debt service are expected to increase. We don't know by how much yet. This is based on a 5-year average of our jail utilization, which I believe we're still in increase mode in the last 5 years. Also, the debt service is to be determined. Our previous estimates for FY 27 show $368,813 versus what we have currently budgeted of $58,752, which would be an increase of $310,000. We're anticipating increases in the Children's Services Act expenditures, which have a local match rate of 34.31%. That is also to be determined. Also to be determined, there's a 10% reduction in the state match rate for community-based services and 2.5% reduction to the cap on state expenditure growth in private day services, which means that localities will be required to assume more share of these costs. Some other miscellaneous anticipated operational expenditure changes. These are all to be determined as well. Inflationary costs for our departments. Anticipated increase in the Region 2000 Authority member tipping fees for our waste disposal. Salary and benefit changes that are proposed, and one-time CIP and capital outlay requests. All right, next we'll look at some anticipated expenditures that are committed for approved projects or items. The first being the Livingston Tap Sidewalk Improvement Project. We have a 20% local match for that project, the total of which is $1,376,495. We have an update from VDOT that in FY 26, they will likely bill us for the preliminary engineering costs in the amount of $75,600. In FY 27, they will bill us for right-of-way costs for $212,248. And in FY 29, the construction costs will be around $1,088,647. These are also project estimates, which VDOT says they will update those in spring of 27, and then once the construction costs are known. And these would be considered one-time costs in terms of budgetary expenditures. The board has also approved an 80% cost share of the Piney River fire truck. This would be a one-time cost of $645,795. And then thirdly, we have a revenue guarantee provided for Nelson County Service Authority's Livingston Sewer System Rehab Project, which is approximately $30,000 per year. This slide says the project status is unknown and we need an update from the Service Authority. This is an ongoing expenditure related to the project debt service that the board agreed to provide for this project. It isn't in my county administrator's report, but we are meeting with the Service Authority folks and their consultant to review the project and get an update. I believe they have discovered or located more manholes that need rehabilitation and some other things that have increased the project cost. So we're going to review that with them this week and should have an update on that after that. Anticipated operational revenue changes in local revenues. So we anticipate some changes in our local economy driven revenues. These are expected to flatten slightly or slightly decline. These would be interest earnings, meals and lodging, permitting fees, and sales tax, for example. Our real property tax revenue changes are to be determined dependent upon the board's consideration of the 2026 reassessment and those tax rates. As far as personal property tax revenue, did a Microsoft Copilot AI inquiry about this for Virginia, And that came back saying that 2026 vehicle values are expected to show a slight decrease or remain stable for used vehicle values, and show a slight increase or remain stable for new vehicle values with no major swings overall. Cited the references here, and we will certainly be monitoring this with the Commissioner's Office as that data becomes available.
Did we use AI?
How about that?
Microsoft Copilot.
Yeah.
I'm a Grok person myself, personally. So.
Okay, next we'll talk about some future potential anticipated local revenue. The additional optional 1% sales tax for new school capital and construction projects has some potential for state adoption under the new governor's administration. This would allow localities to conduct a local referendum for implementation. The potential timeline for earliest consideration on this would be November 2026 referendum, and if approved by voters, the tax would be realized by July 2027, which would be fiscal year 28. Based on FY26 budgeted revenues for the current 1% sales tax, this could yield approximately $2.3 million in revenues that would have to be dedicated for new school capital and construction. In terms of the Wild Rose Solar Project revenue, under the siting agreement that's currently in place and the most recent timeline provided by Wild Rose Solar, the county's positioned to realize the following revenues. The board has previously indicated its desire that these funds be used to benefit the citizens of Gladstone. Excuse me. We have $110,000 that we have received, and that was received after the signing agreement approval. $1 million is pledged at site plan approval, which is expected to be sometime April through September of 2028, which would be fiscal year 28. $1 million in building permit issuance, same time frame, April to September 2028 or fiscal year 28. Actually, that'd be fiscal year 29. Yes, that would be fiscal year 29. Sorry about that. Construction is expected to start July through September of 2028 in the third quarter of 28. We have some other amounts due to us upon commercial operation, which is expected to be October through December of 2029 or the fourth quarter of 2029. Approximately $1 million per year in years 1 through 7. That would be years 2030 through 2037. Approximately $200,000 per year in years 8 through 40, which would be 2038 through 2070. This equates to total one-time funds of $7,122,000, which includes $715,000 per year in years 1 through 7. And then total recurring funds of $16,048 in years 1 through 4.
2070.
Some operational revenue enhancement opportunities, which are local, non-property related. First, building inspection fees are established in County Code Chapter 4, Article 2, Division 1, Section 4-29. These were last updated by adopted ordinance on December 9th, 2003. Our building code official has been working on an update of this fee schedule for the board's consideration. And our FY26 budgeted amount of these fees is $419,100. EMS revenue recovery rates for ambulance transports. These are based upon a percentage of the annual Medicare MFS rates as set by the Board of Supervisors. EMS MC, which is our billing company, has provided the county with their annual proposed rate schedule for the board's consideration. These rates were last adjusted in January of 2025, and our budgeted FY26 amount of this revenue is $844,000. That revenue does offset our paid EMS program. Okay. There is an admission tax that's available to counties of up to 10% of the admission charged authorized by Virginia Code 58.13818. County last proposed this tax in 2018. Public hearing was held on May 8th, 2018 on ordinance 2018-02, establishing a 5% tax, and no action was taken by the board following that hearing. The approved minutes of the board's May 29th, 2018 meeting reflect that there was no consensus to pursue the admissions tax at that time. Estimated anticipated revenue at the time in 2018 was approximately $235,000 to $240,000. And if the board were interested in this, we would need to reevaluate what that potential revenue looks like. There's a cigarette tax authorized by Virginia Code 58.1-3830 through 3832. The county last proposed implementation of this tax and participation in a regional cigarette tax board in 2021. Public hearing was held on November 9th of 2021, and the proposed ordinance to enact the tax in an amount not to exceed 40 cents per pack was not adopted, and notice was then given to the Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board of the county's withdrawal from that entity. Estimated revenue at the time was approximately $132,000 to $158,000, and this too would also need to be reevaluated if the board were so inclined. Our business license tax is currently a maximum annual fee of $30 as authorized by Virginia Code 58.13703 and is based on a population of less than 50,000. The county could transition to a business professional and occupational license or B-poll tax as authorized by 58.1-3706. And this would be based on gross receipts of business entities. Analysis of the fiscal impacts of this has not been done. The FY26 budgeted amount of the business license tax is $54,000. There's a disposable plastic bag tax of 5 cents that's authorized by code 58.11745. For each disposable plastic bag provided to a consumer of tangible personal property by retailers and grocery stores, convenience stores, or drugstores. These proceeds, however, are restricted to be appropriated for the purposes of environmental cleanup, providing education programs designed to reduce environmental waste, mitigating pollution and litter, or providing reusable bags to recipients of supplemental nutrition assistance programs, or SNAP, or women, infants, and children's programs with benefits. And that is the end of this presentation. Shoot. The last piece of this particular agenda item is our proposed budget calendar. Unless y'all have any questions about any of that right now.
I mean, it's
That's a
hard to
lot,
believe it
but
was an
it's,
admission tax 8 years ago. That's
Yeah, I'm wondering if, the public hearing was May 2018, and there was clearly a presentation by staff prior to that, I'm sure, that has
Yes.
information. Could you circulate that to us so we could see what went down then, since I don't remember?
Sure.
And it would be helpful to all of us to consider, that coming up.
I remember Dave Fry came to the meeting. He did.
Yes, he did. He was not a happy camper.
No, he was not. No, he was not, as you might imagine.
Okay. So, shall I wait and see if you all have any other questions, or move on to the calendar? Or draft calendar, I should say.
Calendar.
It's fair to move on.
Okay. All right. So today, as shown for today, we had our preliminary reassessment analysis, preliminary budget information. We're gonna look at this proposed schedule, and then as you see on the agenda, we have 4 of our departments that are gonna report on their budget requests. So then I've tried to line up our calendar to utilize as many of our regular meetings as possible. So for February 10th, we have that we'll review the CIP and have more department budget presentations. And then we will work to introduce our general fund budget at the March 10th, 26th meeting, and also schedule more department budget presentations. And then seek to schedule further work sessions. We can start having some work sessions now if the board would like to do that. That's something you all can think about, and then you can decide if you want to have any upfront presentations prior to the full budget introduction or not. We are trying to, with it being reassessment, we'll have to make certain decisions, trying to front load as much as possible ahead of the budget introduction and your decision-making process about the tax rates.
I think it would be useful to have the capital improvement project and capital expenditure information ahead of time, because we've completed the comp plan. It set some goals and objectives for us. We could take a look at that, and that way we could have that, reviewed ahead of time, and maybe even reach some kind of a, I don't know, consensus on what those projects might entail for the coming year. And since a lot of these things that we have are going for continued years, now that we've got a pretty stable board for a while, it would be a really good idea, I think, to review those and to, revisit them.
Okay. Yep, we've got that planned for the February 10th board meeting. And we're working with Davenport to try to establish a date they can come and give you an update on the debt capacity and our discretionary general fund balances and things, which will be important to understand going into the budget.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, so important dates related to tax rates. Just to review, the items on this are color coded. Anything in black indicates a regular board meeting. Anything in green, it relates to budget work sessions. Blue items indicate they're related to taxes, and kind of the orange color is related to the budget public hearings. So we would be looking for the board to authorize a public hearing on proposed tax rates by March 24th. And the public hearing would then take place at the regular April 14th board meeting. According to this draft calendar, the public hearing, again, yes, will be advertised for April 14th. We have to advertise it once, at least 7 days prior to the public hearing. So then on April 14th, Board of Supervisors regular meeting, we would have the public hearing on the proposed property tax rates, hopefully set those rates and the personal property tax relief percentage for personal property. And then at that meeting, we would authorize a budget public hearing for May 12th, which is the May regular Board of Supervisors meeting. We would we would aim to get the tax rates and the personal property tax relief percentage to the commissioner by Friday, April 17th, after the public hearing. And then those tax bills would go out sometime the week of May 11th. Then we would have our budget public hearing at the May 12th regular meeting. And we have to, wait 7 days after the public hearing before it can be adopted. So we propose to do that at the regular meeting on June 9th.
And the setting the tax rate statutorily, when does that have to be done by? Does it say
I think it says May the 15th.
May the 15th? That's what I thought. I was gonna say, because I don't know if we've ever followed the schedule. Close to. At least the first
this
meeting.
is a working document at this point, but this meets all of our statutory deadlines.
Statutory deadlines. And gives us a little bit of extra.
Hopefully, but it still feels like we don't have a lot of time.
Never does.
Yeah, it
Never does.
So we set our tax rates before we set our budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
A lot of sense that makes.
It's Virginia statute.
Well, we try to get through the budget as much as possible before you have to do that. So hopefully we can do that this time. And, yeah,
Without actually,
that's the goal.
yeah, without actually setting it or without actually going to a public hearing, we can give a range in our estimates when we're trying to figure out the budget.
And as mentioned before, you can advertise a rate higher than what you may actually set. You just can't
You can't go
adopt
above.
something that's higher than what's advertised.
Right.
So last year, my big day was Tuesdays. This year's Wednesdays. If that, just putting that bug in your ear, if we have to have extra meetings, works best for me.
But you are Madam Chair, so
So
schedule
Wednesday's a
around your
good day
meetings.
or bad?
Wednesday afternoons is great, but
Yeah, you all, we can talk about this further, of course, but just think about, do you wanna try to do
Your
it
preliminary in
all,
January.
have a few days of all day? Or it just may depend on your schedules.
My favorite year, I don't know if Ernie agrees with me or not. We did the budget in 4 full days, but it weren't back to back. Do you remember that, Ernie?
I do.
It was like 20.
it was memorable.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, there
Right.
was just 4 really long, and we just got it over with. And then we had our public hearings. It might have been the last time we ever had a budget in May.
Was that the year of a reassessment?
How long was it 4 years ago? I don't know. I don't think it was that crazy.
Yeah.
4 years ago, because we had agreed on the tax rate. I don't know. I can go both ways. I will say I did enjoy the one really long day, and then we just got a lot of it done. Like, we can get the non-agency stuff done. We can get maybe some of the CIP preliminary stuff done. It's really us figuring out what we do on equalization. When is equalization over with for people in their appeals?
I'm gonna say usually it's done by April.
Yeah, okay. But that can be ongoing as we're doing our rates. But Jessica, you are chair, so you decide what philosophy you would like. I do like the long day, because if I'm gonna lose a day at work, I'm losing a full day at work. If not, we got piece together 3-hour increments.
I'm flexible except for a period of time stuck in the middle. I'm not going to be around. So, half day or full day makes no difference to me.
Can you send us those dates when you
I was
have
gonna
it?
say, if you all have dates in mind that you know you're not available, or dates that work really well for you, send that to staff if you don't mind.
Thank you.
I just like to have the budget pretty doggone close before we get, that way we at least know what we're looking at when we set the rate. We're within
Yeah,
a penny or two.
we.
So this is just a budget, kind of a primer. We're gonna have a lot more discussion about all of these things.
Yeah.
And staff can certainly, provide examples, for you on impacts to, residents of
Yeah.
different tax scenarios and things like that. So, if there are no more questions about all the things that I have just said, we can move on to our first department budget presentation.
Sounds lovely.
All right, thank you. And that is the registrar's office, Miss Jackie Harris.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Jackie Harris. I am the new General Registrar and Director of Elections for Nelson County. This is my 13th day on the job, so this is a great way to get started. I look forward to working with you, members of the board, Madam Chair and members of the board. I definitely look forward to the years ahead. Certainly working with county administration and with the departments and staff who have been supportive of our operations. I have a budget overview today of what to expect from our office. I'm going to talk a little bit about baseline and a little bit about things that are yet to come that may end up being supplemental appropriations as we move throughout this year. Our submitted baseline budget for FY27 has changed very little from FY26. We went from, I think in FY26, we have a bifurcated budget where we have both an electoral board elections section of our budget and a general registrar voter registration side of our budget. And these are kind of separate entities with different account codes associated with them. So in that, in FY26, our electoral board budget was $70,450 for baseline. And in FY27, it's $72,905, so about $2,400 additional funds. On the general registrar side, we went from FY26 of $221,644 to a reduction to $220,120. So we actually anticipate some baseline savings because of personnel changes and changes to salaries based on personnel changes as we do our transition here. So that's our baseline. Increases that we've had in the budget are generally related to inflationary costs, as was already mentioned earlier today. Paper, postage, the United States Postal Service told us to anticipate up to a 7% increase in our postage costs, which is a big piece of our budget because of ballot mailings and mailings to voters on a regular basis. Voting equipment programming and support has also increased. We've reached out to all of our current election equipment vendors, and they've given us projections for the coming year, and those are incorporated into that baseline budget. One of the things I think we'll see on the increase this year is going to be training costs, and that's due to a number of factors. As a new general registrar, even though I've been in this business for 36 years, I will need to take required state training because we have a new chief deputy registrar. That individual will be required to take state training as well to complete a program of training within our first year in these respective positions. We're currently in the process of hiring to fill a now vacant position. And so whomever we bring on board, I imagine will be facing some training as well. In addition, we'll need to bring on board a voting equipment technician. And we've advertised that in the past and we've had temporary fill-ins, but we do need to fill that position. And likely that will be someone that will need to be introduced to the voting systems and how those operate and what's needed to support those.
And what's the other position?
So we're going to have a deputy registrar. So we currently have three member staff, the general registrar, director of elections, a chief deputy, and a deputy. And that's our three current full-time staff positions. And then the machine technician is a temporary part-time that works only during election seasons.
Okay, so they're going to be filling the position you had previously?
Yes, so I stepped into the position vacated by Jackie Britt, and Rachel Snap, our prior deputy, moved into the position of chief deputy registrar. And so her position is now open and advertised. Also, as in our budget submission, we made note that we have 2 electoral board members coming on board this year, which is not the norm. Typically, you have one person cycle off and someone else joins. And we had one member who resigned, so that position opened up, and we have a single member who cycled off. So we have a new member who will be joining us, and as a party of the current governor now, and another member who will be returning, but because they are a returning member, both that person and the new person are also required to do specific trainings in this coming year because of being new or renewed. So that'll kind of add to that legally mandated training costs. We also anticipate this year that the Virginia Department of Elections is going to finally implement a new statewide voter registration system. The one that we're currently operating in is over 20 years old and is on its last legs, so to speak. And so the state has indicated that they will be bringing forth a new system. We have not seen any screenshots or any idea of how this will look. So what impact it will have on our operations as far as learning the new system and adapting to it is yet to be seen. But again, we can anticipate probably that there will be training sessions in Richmond. That's typically how this has been done in the past, that we'll send staff to get some hands-on training on the new protocols in the new system. And we're not quite sure with this year's timetable when that will actually occur. And that's really the big question mark for us this year, and that's the calendar. And I'm sure those of you who are kind of following what's happening at the legislative level know that there has been a proposed constitutional amendment to the Virginia Constitution that would allow for midterm redistricting in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The legislature will convene tomorrow. It's my understanding they plan on taking up the 4 pending constitutional amendments sometime very early in the session. So we hope to have a good sense very quickly as to whether we will be looking at redistricting occurring this year. And that would be, in order to move in that direction, there would be a special election held where the voters would vote on the concept of shall the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow for this midterm redistricting process. That election, if held, would likely be in April. There's a 90-day waiting period from the passage of the bill to when you can hold a special election. We anticipate, that's kind of the heads together think that April would be the likely scenario there. We would generally have a June primary, and that would probably be for the if we weren't doing redistricting, it would be both for our member of Congress and for our U.S. Senate. And so we would expect that we would be looking at dual primary. That would be in June, on the thought that if we do redistricting, if that moves forward, then the congressional primary would likely be pushed all the way back to August. We would like to see the General Assembly, if they move in that direction, to also move any other primaries, including U.S. Senate, to August, if that's the way they decide to move forward. But it is still a potential that we would have an April special election, a June primary for U.S. Senate, an August primary for U.S. House of Representatives, and anything else that ends up on our ballot. So, and then the November general election. And what that means is that, as we said, we have a baseline budget that does not include special and primary elections. We could be doing up to 3 additional supplemental appropriation requests for April, June, August. 2 of those would be in FY26. 1 would be in FY27. So we expect FY27 to be August, November, and the following June. So 3 elections in each of those fiscal years. So that's a one-off for us, and we are closely monitoring that. I'm a member of the legislative committee for our organization, and so we're watching that very carefully. In addition to that interesting timetable, we're closely watching some of the other laws that are being thought of both at the state level and at the federal level. So at the federal level, one of the things we're looking at, or a number of things, are some Supreme Court cases and other legislation that's been introduced. Those would impact potentially legislative redistricting and whether current maps or future maps have to be on different parameters than they've been based on in the past. So we're just monitoring that to see if it has any impact on what we're doing. Ballot return deadlines may be impacted. There's a current Supreme Court case that could negate the ability to receive ballots after Election Day that are postmarked by Election Day. If that indeed is ruled upon by the Supreme Court, we may have to change Virginia's practice of allowing ballots to be received by noon the Friday after election. And that would require just procedural paperwork, a lot of forms and documents and notifications to the voters that would have to go out to alert them to that change. There are voter ID Supreme Court cases and legislation out there as to what voters will be required to show as far as proof of citizenship and other types of factors that may alter our processes relatively dramatically as far as what we need to ask from voters and how we would do that and what sort of supplemental requirements we would need for the office to do that. And the last Supreme Court case we're kind of monitoring is on campaign finance limits. While that doesn't always necessarily directly impact, because we do a lot of work with candidates on campaign finance requirements, if indeed there's a change to how money is funded, candidates access to party funding in addition to their own raised funds. So these are some of the court cases and other laws that we're monitoring for impact. We're not sure what will happen with all of the above, so again, it's a lot of moving parts that we're facing. And we will still have all of our baseline requirements. So, and a lot of people don't realize that, annually we perform ADA surveys on each of our polling locations. We did a pretty comprehensive review in the last couple of years, and the county nicely made a lot of amendments to our polling locations to make sure that they're fully ADA compliant. So I don't anticipate we'd have a lot of changes needed there. We do an annual comprehensive cybersecurity review of the cybersecurity status of the entire jurisdiction and its impact on our office and our processes, but that's a pretty in-depth study that we do annually. We are recruiting and training officers of election. Because there was a turnover in office, it's not unusual to see a turnover in officer of election staff as well. People that have worked for X years under the current registrar sometimes decide, okay, if they're moving on, I'm going to choose this time to move on. So we'll be doing our appointments of officer of election on the 23rd of this month, and hopefully we have a good group of folks that we can choose from for that, but we may be doing some outreach and advertising to bring in other officers. We do annual voter list maintenance. We do constant voter list maintenance every day, as people move and change their name and, or turn 18, or we have individuals who have passed away. But there is a statewide mailing that goes out at least once a year. It's a comprehensive annual list maintenance activity, and that will take place at some point between these other actions. And it's limited to when it can occur in relationship to the time of an election. So, in summary on that portion of it, this is likely going to be a challenging year for our office. We certainly appreciate the ongoing support of the board and county leadership and our partners throughout county government as we navigate our way through this. When I look at our budget, the only other piece we really have out there is one CIP request, and that is to replace our handicapped accessible voting equipment, which is required under federal law. And our system that we currently have is reaching end of life as far as the software. And so we have put in an appropriation request for FY27 to replace that equipment with new handicapped accessible voting equipment. I'm ready to take questions if you have any questions or comments.
If we did the referendum, if legislation did allow for the referendum for the sales tax for school capital improvements, when would you all need to know? Or I guess we don't know, but I'm sure there's some standard that exists.
Early voting starts 45 days before a general election, and the ballot is set prior to that. I'm sure we have a deadline as far as when we would receive that, but I have had items like that appear pretty close to that, that timetable. So 60 days out from the election is probably a safe bet, but I can research that and give you an exact.
I mean, we're gonna know pretty quick anyway if it survives session, so, okay. I was just curious on that one.
I'm sure you probably don't want to calculate the worst case scenario, but it would be my hope that the worst case scenario is budgeted in our non-recurring section on our budget, if that's possible. I buys you a little time, but I would like to know how bad it could be if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
And I have one ask, because it was mentioned earlier about the code of Nelson County. And because we're looking at potential redistricting, and our office usually plays a pretty, close role in that, the metes and bounds of the districts and precincts as written in the Nelson County Code, if someone could review those with me, because there's some references to former precincts, et cetera, things that don't seem to currently exist. And so if we review those just for currency and accuracy, so that when we move into a redistricting mode, that we've got means and bounds that we can utilize for that.
Yep, county staff can certainly take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, we can certainly put together anticipated, we know generally speaking what an election costs us. We know that X number of ballots typically go out and what the costs are, so we can put together that relatively quickly.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Building inspection, Mr. Mars.
Chair for. Do you have the paperwork from human resources? I got a little 5-page deal here that I think will help me get you through this pretty quickly. Chapter.
Thank you.
Just read.
We have a small format.
Thanks, there. Read that better.
I can't read, so it's changing it.
I have to use Ernie's glasses over here.
All right, everybody here knows that I can get long-winded. That's why I wrote everything down. So I can just go through this pretty quickly and business. So this is just the budget form number 2. It's got the requests that are identical to last year's budget. We were well under last year. We'll say well under, but we were under. We were comfortably under. We were under as much as a budget should be under. Let's say that. I do not like to run the budget where we're hoping that we're not under every year. So I purposely put these numbers in the way that they're in with that calculated in. This year I did add an additional $1,000 to line item 5504. You just basically read the last sentence. Well, last 2 sentences. Exams average about $250, $300 an exam now that we're fully staffed. I really haven't been attaining the certifications that I've been wanting to attain because we have not been fully staffed for the last 4 or 5 years. So at $300 an exam, that would offer a few more exams for me to achieve some goals that I've been wanting to achieve for half a decade. If that can't happen, that's fine, but that is the only change in this budget from last year to this year. In addition, you can see there's a vehicle replacement at the bottom. The $27,107.10 was the absolute cheapest that I could find. A respectable vehicle. That's the 2026 Nissan Rogue that comes from the fleet. That's $3,200 less than what they were quoting it just, I think, 8 months ago. We go to page 2, that quote's on there, Barber's Meyer Automotive. Just talked to them yesterday. They said that will stay effective for as long as we need it to. This is a stripped down vehicle version of the Rogue. The SV is all-wheel drive. Pretty much just has all the things necessary. Again, it's cloth seats, it's power windows. Power windows comes, standard. But Bluetooth, backup cameras, hands-free phone devices, all the safety equipment also comes standard in that model. So just so you know, there's no bells and whistles. The third page, revenue estimates, that's on there. Again, I would love to put real numbers in that top right corner, but I like to under promise and over deliver. You can see in the green fiscal year 25, we went to 480, 394. I estimated the same last year as I do this year, about 385, and then you can see that we almost went 100 over what I estimated last year. Now, that's not due to anything other than just some very large projects coming into the county. We've got a lot of very large projects spontaneously popping up throughout the county over the year, taking that into consideration. For this year, we have a subdivision going in for the fiscal year 27. We have a subdivision going in that's going to, well, it is proposed to, and it just started breaking ground, so it's moving forward. Within the next 12 months, they're going to start breaking ground on. The proposed plan is 80 structures, all in one area. That's phase one. Phase two is another roughly 60-80 structures. So to put that into perspective, we typically do about 70-80 structures in total, on an annual basis. So it could potentially, increase depending on how quickly they build, but they're all side by side. It's one company doing it 25-50%, maybe even 100% if they're building fast enough. So, so the next couple of years, that number is probably going to change. I did put the CIP on the back, even though the email said we'll look at that later, so I'm not going to go over that right now. However, if anybody has any questions after we read that CIP, feel free to reach out to me. If you go to the very back page, there's an 8x11 that goes with the CIP. Because our building is in the floodplain floodway, there are some zoning restrictions that are not limiting us significantly. However, they are limiting us, and there are state guidelines, and I've worked with the zoning director to make sure that we're within those guidelines. So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to reach out as well.
I
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
couple questions now, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I apologize, but I'm calling back on a conversation that you and I had at some point in the last 2 years. The exams, not specifically for you, but I was under the impression that we should maybe build in more for exams for your staff.
Yeah, we did that last year.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you
the
feel
year-
you're
the year-
sufficient
the year
now?
before last, Ms. McGarry and I talked about it, and Grace and I talked about it. We built in. Anyway, we have a program set in place where there are roughly three exams per person per staff already in place.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have to take into consideration if someone fails an exam, which is likely because the exams are extremely difficult, and then another exam needs to be taken. So, that said, we really do want to get people as many certifications. We want to get them as certified as possible, but they fail two. If they fail one, then we, purchase another. Then they take another one, they fail out, and they purchase another. Technically, we're 4 purchases into 2 exams. So, and that's kind of where I'm at that 4 mark. But again, it's a balance. It's a balance.
As long as you're okay with what you got.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Currently, we are right on that sweet spot, so to speak, that is working out well. Other things to take into consideration is that, 3 of us are out in the field and we are achieving, countless or multiple certifications that are available. And then, the other staff, such as the permit technicians, are, they're only going to achieve 2 or 3 certifications, and then they're going to be done. The thing is we just have this revolving door at the building department for 4 or 5 years. So it's just been a balance, and we've been purchasing exams, and then the people who leave with those exams. It's not like something that stays with the office, it goes with the person.
I just don't want to get to a point where we say they have to do certain certifications for advancement and we're limiting their advancement because the money to take the exam is not there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
That's more than fair. I think if we can certainly sit down and talk about how many exams you think is a fair amount of exams in an annual basis. We're shooting for 3 at this point. You know, there's also, there's also other things to take into consideration, such as, you know, retention and things of that nature, right? It's like being certified doesn't necessarily mean that you are capable of doing the work. You can be a good test taker
Yes.
and still not be able to do the thing that you are certified to do. So,
Amen.
certifications, we've just, you know, I would like the board to trust that I've taken all of these things into consideration and made this plan or goal with all of it in mind.
My next and final question. What is there a mileage that you retire a car, or is it just based on it costs more than it's worth?
That's a good question, and I giggle because the vehicles that we replaced with the Rogues, no, to answer your question quickly, no, there is no specific mileage in place. That said, Jeff Brantley and I have been, you know, talking. I know that Jeff has been talking with Mr. Gary and everyone else. Regardless, we see the value in the vehicles that we have. We maintenance them as per the manufacturer's recommendations. You know, even flushing the radiators when they call for it. I mean, all the things, transmissions, the two Rogues are working very, very well right now. We haven't, you know, knock on wood, we haven't had much issue out of them. I think that we will continue to drive them unless the director of, Ms. McGarry and the director of Public Works or Transportation rather, decides that we are going to institute a program. That said, the Colorados that we had, they had a couple 100,000 miles on them before we got rid of them. They were good trucks. They just, they eventually started sputtering out, and then issues came that cost more than they were worth. It's just like the Escape that we are currently trying to replace.
I don't know what the history is. I know we've sometimes passed on sheriff vehicles because they're all-wheel drive.
Yep.
Have you had success with that?
Yeah, so we actually
We have one down there.
Yeah, we have sheriff's people given to us. It does have somewhat high mileage on it at 174,000 and some change.
Yeah.
It may go until the cows come home. Then again, when I take it out, it's got a lot of shaking and shimmying noises and brake scratching and things of that nature. And when I mention these things to the director of transportation / Public Works, Jeff Ramley, and our fellows over at the automotive shop at the school, they, you know, kind of give me maybe you should put in for a new one, you know, because it costs a lot to maintain these old guys and they liable to break anytime. So that's why I put in for the new one under the suggestion of, you know, just talking to the director of transportation.
What is a Rogue? Is that all-wheel drive?
The Rogue is all-wheel drive, yeah. And you know, all of you know me very well. I analyze things from every perspective, and I took into great consideration all the other options. Toyota RAV4s, I took in F-150s, Chevy Colorados. Even after we spoke, I took into consideration Chevy Colorado. The base model for the Chevy Colorado was, you know, around about the same price, but at the same time, it didn't have some of the options, some of the safety features, and also it was rear-wheel drive. You know, it didn't have the available four. And then of course the fours, you know, push in manual, where the Rogues are all-wheel drive all the time, which I feel is, from a liability standpoint and a safety standpoint, for the people that work for me and my staff, when they're in the vehicle, I don't want them to have to think, should this be in four-wheel drive? I don't want that to be a thought process. I just want it to be safe, whether they're driving in the rain, hydroplaning, or you know, coming off a mountain, or we go into some pretty precarious situations on job sites. Sometimes we're forging small creeks, waterways. We're you know, going up the side of embankments with dirt, and you know, while I tell them not to get into too precarious of a situation, it's hard not to sometimes. So we need them to perform without thinking about shifting it into four-wheel drive.
I'm sure y'all have, but have we looked into lease vehicles?
I thought the sheriff was investigating, Grace.
Yeah, we've sort of started looking into that with the sheriff's department being more highly interested in their fleet. And we thought that might be a good pilot to see if that's something that worked well for them, and maybe that could work for us. At this point, we're not too heavily invested in that. It's a fleet program that Enterprise has, a lease program. So we've certainly been thinking about it and definitely gonna monitor what happens, with the sheriff's department and how well it goes for them. I think before we jump into something like that.
Okay.
Jeremy, the last page on this is that relevant to
That's relevant not to
CIP?
the budget, but to the CIP. Yeah.
Okay, so you would
Yeah,
review
so
all
this-
these things to come up with an estimate of what
Yeah,
you think might need to be done.
Again, I was told that we weren't gonna talk about the CIP tonight, so I didn't wanna get too deep into it, but basically, this came straight out of our, straight from zoning as to what we could and could not do in regards to, a structure being in the plain floodway and what items are included versus what items are not excluded into the amount that is 50% of the total assessed value. Technically, the total appraised value. I just use the assessed value from the county because we don't have an appraisal on the building. I'm sure an appraisal will be more than the assessed value. However, the assessed value is more than enough to do some of the things that I wrote on there, such as structural analysis and things of that nature.
Right, but you don't need any direction from us to be able to give us an estimate of what you think ought to be done.
No, sir.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Jeremy?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Sheriff.
Good afternoon. It's good to see everybody. Good to be here with you. Happy New Year. You all have a copy of my submitted budget in front of you. Okay, very good. Before I get started on the budget, I'm going to run through this very, very quickly. I do want to speak. I want to say thank you all very much. I know for the last 2 years, I've stood up here many times with requests for financing and assistance, local matches with grants, and this board has met me 100% on everything that I've asked for. And I want to say truly thank you. I'm very proud of the agency where we're at right now, and I could not do this without the members of the board here. So again, thank you all very much. I wanted to start, there are some changes to the budget, and I can go down through line item on that. If you're looking at the submitted budget, not the vehicle section thus far, but line item 3007, that's our advertising. I did increase that. That particular has to do with our social media page. If you've been following our social media page for the last couple of years, I'm very transparent with the Nelson County community. I manage that. There's one other author on that page that assists me with the posting. We are looking to actually increase doing video and highlight reels to indicate to the community what we're doing, particularly starting this year. This has to do with our increased training. And we're going to use it as an engagement to a recruitment tool to again garnish recruitment efforts. We have a lot of training that we're planning this year here in our community using our Nelson County Public Schools, and I thank them for their collaboration with us and quite a few other ventures that we're taking on. So that's that increased cost. Obviously, with inflation and what we're dealing with today, line items 5409, 5410, they deal with police supplies and uniform supplies. 2 years ago, we changed our uniform. Well, we initiated our uniform change 2 years ago. It actually took effect this past year, and we are grateful for that. It's a new modernization and keeping up with the cost of those. The police supplies, that has to deal with anything duty-related equipment gear that our folks have to utilize on a day-to-day basis to give them those opportunities. So We will make ends meet this year. We've had to cut back on some things that we wanted to purchase. These are predominantly for our patrol divisions in the things that they encounter day to day, but I've had to increase that based on some of the things that we've encountered. If you look down 5503, that has to do with travel and lodging. And just down below that is the most significant increase to our budget is going to be from a training perspective. And I think that the folks that have spoken before me have talked about training costs going up. That's no difference than what it is that we're experiencing. For the travel and the lodging, a majority of our training takes place outside of the Criminal Justice Academy that we utilize in Lynchburg, which requires our employees to travel to other jurisdictions, at which point we have multi-days of training, and instead of asking them to drive back home several hours one way, that is our lodging. Our travel, lodging, and our current training, we completed that back in November of FY26. It just happens to be, we have to maintain our training through the Department of Criminal Justice Services, which is mandated of our agency along with other agencies throughout the Commonwealth. Our training budget as well, and I'm referring to line item 5509. We are affiliated with the Central Virginia Training Center out of Lynchburg. The cost is increased for all membering agencies that are associated with that. We pay an X amount of a dollar value based on the number of employees that we have with our agency associated with that. That has gone up substantially, as well as any aftermarket, I call it aftermarket training, any advanced training that these folks are not getting at the academy. We have folks who want to continue with career development, continuing education, and advanced training both for our criminal investigative division and for our patrol officers. We have folks that want to get certified on instructorships to be able to teach in all those classes. It used to be that these classes, if you're a membership agency, you go, you sign up, you're on a waiting list, you get in. Now there's pays, and there's dues and everything associated with that. So that has been the biggest significant increase to this budget, as you can see, based on what I have highlighted there. I have added, and I want to preface this, there's a line item at the bottom, and I wanted to bring this to your attention. This again is a request. I've added this and wanted to explain the nature of the request. I've entitled this Community Programs and Events, and this is a line item of $3,000. What I'm referring to in this, there are 3 programs that the Sheriff's Office has adopted in the last 2 years under my tenure. One of those, and these are all, I feel very strongly, very successful programs, that being our Cop Camp program that occurs in June. That's a 2-week program designed at 2 different age level school children. And we have our Nelson Night Out, which is an event that takes place the last Saturday of July annually, as well as our senior program. There are many expenditures that go associated, particularly with our Cop Camp program, that outweigh what is in our budget. The community has been very kind to me over the course of the last 2 years as far as favorable donations to things that we're doing. We do have a fee associated for each Cop Camper that comes along. That fee is $20. I'm not going to raise that. And just based on those expenses, there are certain other things that we offer as far as field trips and things that we do with these kids that just far exceed what our budgetary expense has been. Anything outside of what the budget has been, there have been some things that have been bought and paid for outside of the Nelson County Sheriff's Office budget in order to make this program successful. I'm respectfully asking just strong consideration to adding this line item in so that it allows me to give back to the community, particularly for those 3 programs. Are there any questions on that before I move to the vehicle section? Any of that? Okay.
Sharon, if
Yes,
you
ma'am.
don't mind, would you just briefly explain, at least with the training and the base training, agreements that our officers sign, regarding the training costs and reimbursement of those, should they?
So, yes,
Leave the
ma'am. So,
department.
so Ms. McGarry's referring to, I'm assuming the contract that we do. So we have a contract with all of our new recruits. These are folks that are non-certified law enforcement officers that will come on. The contract entails a 3-year commitment. And if they leave prior to that 3-year commitment, most other agencies are doing this as well, just because of the cost that we bear in the event that they leave this agency prior to. This is a contract that this is not, I have not had to enforce this during my tenure here, but certainly other agencies certainly have had to do so. But we believe it's in the best interest of the sheriff's office and the county of Nelson to put this in place. But we present this, and I explain it to any candidate that accepts employment with us, particularly non-certified, that has to go to the Lynchburg Training Academy, that if they were to leave employment with the county of Nelson, the sheriff's office, within that 36-month time period, that they would have to reimburse the county. That contract, as time goes on, the more vested they are within that 3-year term period by month, the less that they would owe, obviously. So if they left within the first 2 or 3 months, let's say, of successful graduation with the academy, which would put them at an 8th-month employee, that they would owe far more than they would if they left at month 35 going to, let's say, a neighboring jurisdiction, if that makes sense to everybody. So we do put that into place, yes, ma'am.
So do police have to do a continuing education program yearly? Like keeping up accreditations, things like that to keep employment?
So they would do annual, in service, yes.
Okay.
So the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services, a law enforcement officer has to recertify with a minimum 40-hour standard every 2 years.
Okay, and that is paid for by you?
Yes.
And what you're asking for is something above and beyond that?
Yes, so that's part of the training academy. Those costs have gone up, yes. We buy into the academy annually based on membership, based on the size of the agency dictates that, how many members you have on payroll.
So this isn't money going to things that above and beyond for them to continue their employment and doing what they need to do. This is actual requirements needed to maintain what they have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Any others? The second part of that, and I'll get to the question that come up about lease vehicles. So we have, and Ms. Moyer, please correct me if I'm inaccurate on this, but I believe we have at least one other, if not 2 other meetings scheduled with Enterprise. I have submitted a vehicle budget based on if we were to purchase outright owned by the county of Nelson for this year. We still have at least one pending meeting with Enterprise Rental that I want to go over to compare what their numbers are based on what they could offer us and see how it compares to what we are looking for, what our need is for FY27 based on this. What I have submitted in my current packet is basically similar to what I submitted for FY26. We're asking for 4 vehicles. We've identified 3 under state contract. 2 years ago, we purchased the Dodge Durangos. We were very pleased with that. That comes out of state contract. We're asking for 3 of those. They're brand new 2026 models. Again, that's all-wheel drive. That is delivered here to Nelson County by the dealership out of Bedford County. The 4th vehicle that we are looking at would be another four-wheel drive truck. It's a Chevrolet Silverado. This one's a little bit different. The Silverado that we purchased for FY26 actually just got delivered here, fully loaded. It's actually a beautiful vehicle. It's assigned to our Criminal Investigative Division, and it is equipped. It is extremely nice. They're very happy. This vehicle, very similar in nature, but this is actually used. This is a 2025 Chevrolet Silverado, low mileage, under 10,000 miles. That's actually owned by Advanced Vehicle. It's AVS. It's the company that Solutions. They're out of Stanton. This is the company that actually outfits our current vehicle that puts the equipment and everything in it. The same truck was actually utilized by the sheriff's office last December to deliver bikes in our Bikes and Badges program. This is what this truck will be used for. This is going to be going to one of the air administrators on a daily basis. But with this, I will no longer have to utilize the services of Nelson County Animal Control. This year, Captain White was kind enough to allow us to utilize his vehicle and one other to actually deliver bikes during our Christmas program. This will deplete that. From now, we would be able to have something that actually be able to do that. This truck is actually programmed to play Christmas music and so forth. If you watched our video from December of 2024, this is the same vehicle that we're looking to purchase. Again, it's a great deal. It's actually cheaper to do it this way than it is to buy brand new. The total budget that I've submitted that's in front of you is actually, I believe it's about $2,000 less than what I asked for under FY26, would be the same amount of vehicles. Now, with those 4 purchases, if approved, we will have 4 vehicles. You should have in front of you a sheet of our current fleet, and we will be removing 4 that whether needs to go to other agencies in need of a vehicle like Mr. Mars has from us, or if it's something that we need to put online on auction, I'll leave that up to the board and Ms. McGarry to do so. But any questions about any of the vehicles?
We typically utilize .gov, don't we? Or Gov Sales or whatever.
It is. I don't know if it's Municipid that we're doing. Major Mechie has handled that.
Yeah, we've used Municipid and then govdeals.com, I think it is also.
What else are we gonna use the truck for besides for delivering bikes?
No, it's going to go to a daily administrator. It's going to be used daily as a patrol vehicle. This is a patrol vehicle. I brought that up just as a reference point. This is a daily driver.
So, so you're increasing the fleet by 1 vehicle, is your intention?
No, sir. We're getting 4. We're giving away 4. We're breaking even.
So this is one of the 4?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, it's not an addition to.
Truck and 3 Durangos.
Thank you.
So truck goes to our administrative staff. That vehicle that's currently operated by administrative staff will come down to patrol division. So, yes, sir.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Our agency is currently fully staffed. Our traffic unit is working well. If you all are still getting correspondences that I send to you all on a monthly basis, that is doing well. I've also got data listed in there that I received from the clerks of both General District and Circuit Court for how things have gone over the course of the past 12 months. While I'm standing in front of you, I just want to bring, outside of that budget, I just want to bring something to your attention. My office is constantly receiving on a monthly basis telephone calls from the vendors of our school traffic cameras. They're still interested in doing business with Nelson County for a public safety standpoint. I just simply bring that to your attention. I've had lots of phone calls from my constituents as well as many of yours that are also interested in looking at that option as well. My office does the best we can, even as fully staffed, to be present and take enforcement action in their school zones. I'm very proud of what they can do. I just bring that up. If that is another, I know that this was brought up in December of 23, but if that is something that this board wants to look at, I have a direct line to both vendors of both companies that would be interested in speaking with you all again, and I will leave it at that. Anything else?
Did you address the K-9?
So, yes, sir. So I am not asking anything for K-9, and the reason being is when I took office January 24, we were K-9 abundant. If you remember, I had to come before you. 2 of our handlers have left, and those dogs, one we sold a dog to another agency. One we had to medically retire, the older of the 2 dogs. So we were able to get something back. We have 3 canines at this point that are bomb explosive canines. They're owned by one of our employees. These were DOD dogs that have no expense on the Department of the County. That employee will be retiring this year, and those dogs will be going with him. My plan, I have 2 new employees that are both interested in acquiring a canine. My plan is to, not this year, we will evaluate sometime in calendar year 2027, and I'll be looking at reinstituting a canine program with tracking dogs. Yes. We do have money coming in. I don't want to speculate. I have a pretty good idea into our asset forfeiture based on some things that have taken place with our 3A task force. There's a very good chance that a lot of that, the canine program will be started utilizing those fundings. Yes, sir. But thank you very much for the question.
Just curious, how much is a canine?
A lot.
Yeah.
Depends on the kind of dog you want.
I mean,
Depends on.
100. No, they're more than that.
Less than 20,000.
Really?
It's
20.
It's in that vicinity.
Okay, I thought they were like 70, 80.
So we're actually exploring that. That would be for your patrol canine, your bite dog is certainly more expensive, and based on the training that you need with that. I have been looking at the need in Nelson and the calls for service that we have for a canine, and it seems to be, we will actually be exploring like what the Game Commission has, something with a tracking dog, possibly black lab or something like that. Lower cost, lower maintenance, and again, based on the need, the handler who we're looking at, the compatibility between the animal and the handler. So. Well, thank you all for your time.
I was just gonna add, part of that expense is for the dog, the other part is for the dog and the handler to attend training together.
Yeah, that's a lot, most of it.
There's a tremendous amount of expense that goes in that.
Yes. I think the support dogs are about 3 times that. Yeah.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Should we take a quick
Yeah.
bathroom break and then,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just be reminded that the ladies' bathrooms up here are out of order and you can use any of the other